How's it going, everybody? ATP here, and today's video is going to be all about the Los Angeles Gladiators. I figured this would be a good day to discuss them since there's no games to analyze or react to right now until the start of the weekend. That being said, let's have a talk about the Gladiators. The first thing I wanted to say about them is that these guys look pretty strong right now, and I'd say that most people consider them to be a top 5 or 6 team in the league. I'm impressed with the progression this team has shown. At one point, they were 1-4 during Stage 1. Since their 3-1 loss to the Spark, they've won 8 straight games, 6 of which have come during this stage alone. This team really appears to have hit their stride. Not only do Roar and Decay look more comfortable on their new team, but everyone in the starting lineup appears to look so much more improved when playing GOATs. It's honestly kind of scary how different this team looks when compared to the early parts of Stage 1. So the next question we have to ask is, why have the Gladiators improved so much? I mentioned that Roar and Decay a few moments ago have looked pretty good, so I think that's a good place to start. Roar has always been a pretty talented player even before he joined the Gladiators, but somehow, some way, he just keeps on finding ways to up his game. His Winston and Reinhardt have looked absolutely insane so far. It's not just a matter of him winning the Reinhardt mind games and fragging out more often though. You have to think that his shot calling and communication in English has progressed quite a bit as well. And I'm sure that it's only going to get easier for Roar and the Gladiators as he continues to build upon his fluency in English. I also think that Roar was still adjusting to his new team and to the Overwatch League stage during the first few weeks of the year, so he's a lot more comfortable now that he's had the time to adjust. Him being able to play with his former teammate Decay, who he already has a lot of synergy and past experience with in the GOATS meta, has also more than likely helped him feel more comfortable. Roar has proven that he is more than just a replacement for Fissure. I don't think the Gladiators are missing him one bit right now, especially when you consider the fact that Fissure isn't even starting for the Dynasty right now. Maybe he's more trouble than he's worth. Now let's talk about Decay. His presence in the starting lineup has really elevated this team to another level. His team was still losing during the first week he became eligible to play, but the Gladiators have not lost a game since that first week. Both him and Roar have done such a good job of adjusting to their new team and improving their English in such a short amount of time. I could not be more impressed with these guys. But let's talk a little bit more about the individual impact that Decay has brought to the table. No offense to Surefour, but Decay looks like a serious upgrade. His Zarya just looks so much better. I know that Surefour isn't really known for his Zarya and is better suited to be playing DPS, but still, you can really tell that Decay's been practicing Zarya and how to play in this meta for a lot longer since he's been doing it since the Kongdu Panthera days, and it shows with how much better the Gladiators look when he's in the game over Surefour. Just to put it into a stat perspective, Decay currently averages 10,280 damage per 10 minutes, which is good enough for 6th best in the league. He also only averages 4.16 deaths per 10, and while that isn't amazing, it still could be a lot worse. Now let's compare these numbers to Surefour. Surefour averages just a little bit over 9,300 damage per 10 minutes, which is nearly 1,000 less damage than Decay. His 4.44 deaths per 10 minutes is also noticeably worse than Decay's. I don't want anyone to think I'm hating on Surefour, especially because I'm actually a really big fan of the guy. I thought I'd just get that out there. He's probably my favorite player on the Gladiators if I'm going to be honest. So no disrespect when I say that Decay is clearly the better fit in the current meta. He has a greater overall impact in the game. I think that much is pretty obvious. He does more for his team while dying a good amount less than Surefour does. The scariest thing about Decay is that we've only seen a fraction of what he's capable of. I can't even begin to imagine how scary the Gladiators could be if DPS becomes more relevant. A DPS rotation of Decay, Surefour, and Hydration sounds dangerous. I would actually really love to see some more Surefour and Decay at the same time because they could almost be like a Pine and Sabiobi from last year where one of them can play Tracer, then the other plays Widow, or maybe like a McCree or something. That could be really fun to watch. And if it looks like it would be a better idea to have a projectile player come in, then you just sub Hydration in for either Surefour or Decay, and there you go. Bam, you have a really good DPS rotation. In all seriousness though, it looks like Fissure leaving the team wasn't a big loss after all. They got 2 players with superstar potential to compensate for it. The Gladiators are looking absolutely stacked right now. It's not just Roar and Decay who have been pulling their own weight though. Everyone in the starting lineup has looked pretty good lately. Void has stepped up during the absence of Bishu by performing exceptionally well on the Diva role. The man has been eating grabs and getting massive Diva bombs left and right. Void has really come into his own since joining the team last year. Then there's Hydration. His Brigida has gotten so much better. He was constantly making mistakes during the early parts of Stage 1. His over-aggression tended to get him killed a lot, and his rally usages could have been better as well. But those issues seemingly disappeared since the Gladiators have gone on this big win streak. And how can we forget about Big Goose and Shaz? They're still as good as ever if you ask me, and they honestly look better than they did last year if anything, since Big Goose gets to play Lucio, which is a hero he can be so much more impactful on than Mercy. Shaz also continues to look really good on the Zenyatta while also showcasing a pretty solid Ana at the same time. I've always rated the support duo pretty highly, and they continue to show exactly why they're one of the best support lines in the entire league. So now the question we have to try and answer is, can the Gladiators finish as a top 3 seeded team in Stage 2? I personally think they have a pretty small chance. It sounds kind of ridiculous to say this, but a 7-0 record will not guarantee them a top 3 spot since the Shock, Titans, and Spitfire could all finish with an undefeated record as well. Both San Francisco and Vancouver will more than likely finish with the best record since they're easily the 2 best teams in the league right now. They've been cruising through just about all of their games. The Titans and the Shock have at least a +4 map differential advantage over the Gladiators, and they've each played 1 less game too. The Gladiators' only hope is that the Spitfire either lose a game or finish with a worse map differential than them. They'll more than likely need the first option to happen since the Spitfire are only 2 behind right now in terms of map differential, and they've only played 4 games this stage. They played 2 less than the Gladiators have, so they really need to pray that the Spitfire somehow lose to the Eternal Spark or Outlaws, or just barely squeak out a victory over all of them. The Gladiators need to take care of business as well though. If they even want to have a chance of finishing in the top 3, then they're going to have to beat the Uprising during week 5. I know that Boston has been struggling a little bit lately, but they're almost always a tough team to face since they're just so darn scrappy. The Gladiators' best case scenario would be to win this series either 3-1 or 4-0, or they could be in a pretty bad position. It really does suck for the Gladiators since London's playing 3 very beatable teams and they've been pretty hot lately. The odds of them losing or having a hard time against all of their opponents is actually pretty slim. The Gladiators have to win big and hope that Lady Luck is on their side, otherwise they're more than likely going to be taking on the NYXL in the first round of the playoffs. Going undefeated in the stage just to face the NYXL in the first round is a cruel joke. The road to a stage 2 title would be absolutely brutal if this was the case. You'd more than likely have to go up against all 3 of the best teams in the league right now. Even though I'd hate to see the Gladiators have to face such a tough opponent so early on, I also think this would make for a pretty interesting matchup. If they can at least look competitive against the NYXL, then they'd solidify their spot as a top 5 team for sure. And it would be even better if they could beat the NYXL, so then we could see how they'd stack up against either the Titans or a Shock team that has improved tremendously since the last time the Gladiators faced them during the first week of the year. Regardless of the stage's outcome, one thing that we can all admit is that the Gladiators have come a long way in a short amount of time. They've gone from an average looking team with a 3-4 record to a top dog in the league who could potentially finish stage 2 with an undefeated record. Let's all take a moment to appreciate the incredible growth this team has shown. The Gladiators have an opportunity to show why the best teams in the league should take them a little bit more seriously. This team is no joke, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. And with that said, that's everything I got for you guys today. If you enjoyed today's content, then be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. As always, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.